Alright, lovely, if you really want to learn. Come. There's enough room on the stool for the both of us. Let me open this up. Now, I have a couple of old notes and whatnot. I learned to play when I was very young. Surprising, I suppose. There was just this old abandoned piano where we were growing up. I suppose you could call him a guardian of sorts. He knew how to play. I was the only kid who showed much interest. Most of the others just wanted to play fine, but I wasn't taught on any proper books, or I don't know. I'm sure there is better ways to be taught than whatever I'm going to tell you, but you asked me, so I suppose I shall do the best that I can. I think are we really starting from the basics? Do you know anything? Can you read? No, I meant specifically music. I see. Then, the beginning it is. Alright. So, at this point I would say let me put the practice pedal on, but this is an old thing and the practice pedal doesn't exactly work anymore. So, what it would have done is made everything a lot quieter, but we haven't really got that option today. So, if you could try and play as softly as possible, but I understand you're just learning, you can at least put the quiet pedal on. But so, come on. Do you understand the very, very basics that going towards the left, the pitch of each note gets lower, and going up towards the right, the pitch of each note gets higher? And you can sort of see that the keys are almost grouped. You have 3 white keys and 2 black keys here, and then 4 white keys and 3 black keys. Good. So, each key is named a different letter, right? So we have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then it resets. And we're back to A, because you see it's in the same position each time. In where it's nestled between the black keys, the pattern of the keys repeats itself. Good. Though when we place our hands on the piano to play, sort of the central note isn't actually A, it is C. Specifically, this note is called middle C. Can you play A through to G for me? Doesn't matter which octave, you can play it an octave lower because of real sound. It's alright if you stumble. It's going to take a while for you to remember that order, that A is this one. C is fairly easy to remember because it's essentially the start of this pattern. So if you just remember that this one's C, then you know that 2 down from there is A. Yes. So, basics of sheet music. These are notes. Whether the tail, the stick bit of the note, points up or down does not matter. It only changes direction so that it takes up less room on the page so that everything stays more compact when you're writing. So the direction this is pointing does not matter. It's just so that once you get to notes around the top of the lines, that, you know, the sticks aren't sticking up into the line above it. So we have crotchets. So 1 beat notes. You hold it for 1 count. Rhythm values of notes, they're important to learn, especially if you wanted to ever do sight reading, which is where you're given sheet music that you've never heard before and you just play it based off reading and counting the length of each note. If you're only planning on playing tunes that you already have heard before, you know what they sound like, then you already, if you can already hum them, then you already know what the rhythm is. You have 2 beat notes and 4 beat notes. There are also half beat notes, which are quavers, which are the ones that have the little flick at the top of the stem. Yes. And then you get semi-quavers and semi-demi-quavers. It just means the note is getting faster. You play it for a shorter amount of time. We have bars, which just group the notes together to make things easier to read. And you have your time signature at the front. So a time signature is important, it keeps you in count. The default majority of songs are written in 4/4 time, which is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But something like waltzes, for example, are always written in 3/4. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Exactly. I doubt we'll be starting you off on anything different than 4/4 or 3/4 for a while. There are songs that I know in 5/4, 7/4. You can get like 12, 13, all sorts of numbers, but it's just counting. Yes. An example. Right, I'll try and play something while counting. I think this is in 3/4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3. Apologies, I hit the wrong note. You get the idea. Something in a different time signature. Off the top of my head. Let's think. Right. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. Off the top of my head, I'm not really good at thinking of things. Well, I don't want to play anything too complicated and then you lose track of my hands. You'll understand it more as we go. So I will probably start off with you just playing things in your right hand. Your right hand essentially normally plays the melody, and your left hand is playing the accompaniment. Sort of, if you imagine someone singing and playing the guitar, your right hand will be playing what they are singing, and your left hand will be playing the chords that they are strumming. I don't know if that's a good comparison, but that's the one I've used. So, we'll see that when sheet music is written, if it was something written for the violin, which essentially only has one hand playing it, right? You'll see it written like this. Just one line in the treble clef. Treble clef is anything from middle C upwards. If a piece is primarily written middle C and upwards, then it'll be in the treble clef. If it starts to dip more than a few notes down, it might switch to the bass clef. It's not specifically like the bass clef is always your left hand and the treble clef is always your right. There may be a piece that requires your right hand to jump over your left downwards. I'm starting to wonder, with you asking for examples, that we're not really here for lessons and you just want the excuse to listen to me play. Right, okay, so if you look, this is what my left hand is doing. My right hand is going to end up being up here. But there's a bass note to start off with that is below where my left hand is. So to play that, I'm going to have to jump over with my right and come down here. Yes, I can demonstrate. Right. See, jumping over again. Usually. Alright. Let me see you place your hand on the keys. Alright. Can I touch you? So, don't put it flat like a pancake. No. Loosen up. And this is the way it was explained to me, so don't laugh. Imagine that there is a mouse underneath your hand. I know. Look. I was taught these things when I was a child. If the way I'm explaining it to you is childish, I can't help it. So, be good. I am taking time away from my busy schedule to help you. Imagine that there's a mouse under your hand, and you're making sort of a little bridge or shelter for it. So curl your fingers. Don't let your wrist don't let your wrist drop and touch the piano. Wrist up. But your fingers need to be curled and bent. There you go. And when we play, a very beginner thing to do when you play is to just want to go from one note to the other, sort of like this. You hear that you are pressing, lifting up, pressing, lifting up, pressing and lifting up. That's not what we want to do. Is what you need to do. As you press the next note, you need to lift up the previous one sort of at the same time. You don't want to press the next note. Apologies. You want to play the next note while you're still playing the previous one, if that makes sense. Like that. You were watching my feet while I was playing. Well, would you like me to show you how to sit properly? You can stop slouching for one. You want the stool to be pushed back. You want to sit right on the edge. Not so much that you're falling off, but yes, like that. So, if you're not using the quieten pedal, but you are going to be using the sustain pedal, which is what you saw me just using, so the difference with the sustain pedal is without and with. You hear the difference? It sort of blends all of the notes together. It's a lot better for slow classical pieces or sad piece. You wouldn't use a sustain pedal if you were playing like an upbeat jazz piece. So let's say I was just using the sustain pedal, I would tuck my left leg behind me, have it on its toes. For the pedal, have your foot, and you can put yours next to the quieting pedal, yes. Or the dampening pedal, whichever you want to call it. Have your foot resting on its heel, and just gently place your foot against the pedal, don't press it down. If you were using the quieting pedal, you might want it on the whole time, or you might want it on, let's say you were playing a piece that started very quiet and built very loud at the end. You might want to take it off towards the end. And that's fine to do. With the sustain pedal, you want to be a bit more careful. Because if you can't just keep it pressed down the entire time you're playing, or every single note will become this muddled mess. So what you want to do is take it off and back on, so lift up and back down very quickly at the end of each bar. I don't know if you'll be able to tell. How's about you watch my foot move while I play that again? Right. Let me show you again. So, I'll try and play quiet, and it's a bit hard when the practice pedal doesn't work. So, it's down. And we have the start of the first bar here. And up and down very quickly. It doesn't have to specifically be at the end of each bar, but definitely when you're changing chords. You need to change that. So, I'm teaching you a bit more about the music. This note here is middle C. So, you have 4 spaces, 5 lines, but the notes can also appear above and below those final lines. It's not a container. Yes, so when you see, if a note appears below or above the lines that are already pre-drawn, and it is a note that appears on a line, because it alternates, so middle C, for example, is on a line, so then the next note, D, is on a space, the next note, in the gap between the lines, line, space, line, space, line. But you'll notice, because of how many keys there are in one group, in one lot of the pattern, as there are 7, so there's an odd number, that while middle C is on a line, the next C up is in a space, so it's not always the same as you go up. Does that make sense? So, as you see with middle C, because it comes below these lines, middle C is right below the final line, but it has a line through it to signify that it is on a line. So, we have C, this note here, which means if you saw a note just above this, in the space without a line through it, what note do you think that will be? Good, D, just above it. And so on, if you go to the note that is in the next line up, that's E, the next space is F, and so on. Is there an easy way to remember? Well, with the notes in the spaces, there's a little bit, but it doesn't work too well. What I mean is, I remember someone explaining to me that the notes in the space spell out the word face, but doesn't really work that way. I mean, yes, if you start with F, A, C, E, those are all in the spaces, but it only works for this specific octave. If you then went up to the next octave, it doesn't apply, so There's not really an easy way, you just have to learn it and remember it. Is it? Starting with this note here. And you see when it's written in the left hand, it might be in the left hand. In the bass clef. The line may come down, but it doesn't change anything. Essentially, it looks the same, just with the tail pointing in a different direction. That's right here, in the middle. Right above that, can you see? D. Good. If you were to go down in your left hand, B, yes. At least that bit should come easy, as you do know your alphabet. I didn't mean that to sound quite as patronizing as it did. You can practice seesawing between those notes. That's probably a good place to start, is just you trying to learn and remember each note. And this is C's the easiest to remember, and if you remember that, obviously, if you go down, it starts at A. When you go up, it ends at G. I know we haven't touched on the black keys yet. I figured that would be a little bit complicated for right now. Very well. So, as well as time signatures, you have key signatures. Not that I think you should be playing in anything other than C major, A minor, as you're just starting out. But these notes are called sharps and flats. Depending on the key signature, depends on whether it is a sharp or a flat. So, a flat essentially is going down from the white key. So, this note here is C sharp, because it's just above C. It is also D flat, because it's just below D. So then we have D sharp, E flat, F sharp, G flat, G sharp, A flat, and A sharp, B flat. If you do come across a signature that has more than 5 flats or sharps, because there are only 5 in one pattern, you see, what that means is if something wants F flat, well, there's no black key below F, but you do it the same, you still just go down a note, so F flat is E, and the same as that C flat is B, the white note, yes. But I shouldn't think that we'll be troubling ourselves with these yet. There's no need to. Well, if something is written as a sharp, it has a little sort of cross-hatched symbol, number symbol. You know, 2 lines going down, 2 lines going across. So, noughts and crosses, sort of. And if something is marked as a flat, it has a what looks like a very small lowercase letter B. It's a line going down and then a little triangle coming out of the side. I don't think we need to worry about neutrals yet, or naturals. I think for now, all you need to worry about and practice remembering is not playing any pieces yet, but just going through and counting the letters of each note, remembering where they are. I know that's boring. Learning things is boring when you start off. You don't think I had to start off feeling a bit like a baby? Just playing the same few notes and remembering which letters they were. But you can't play anything if you don't know how to read. And that's what we have to work on first, I'm afraid. I've been playing for decades. You can't be expected to instantly play like me when you haven't ever played before. And I certainly don't expect you to. I'm not going to be disappointed or laugh at you if you struggle. You should have heard Jinx when she was trying to play. She gave up on it very quickly. Do you think you're made of stronger stuff? No, it just really wasn't her thing. She's not one for calming activities, though I think she does get some calmness out of her tinkering and building. She has to have steady and delicate hands to be able to do such tiny work, but this isn't really her style. I suppose perhaps maybe. I'm glad that someone is showing an interest. It's a nice skill to have, I think. Well, it's nice just to have a skill. Something not to do with the job that you have. You've had it. I didn't really explain how to play quieter, but I figured it was a little bit obvious that the lighter you press down, the quieter. And if you were to slam your hands down, which I hope that you won't do, the risk of breaking the keys. But yes, the harder you play the note, the louder it becomes. This is why you may see people play, and when they're playing very quiet, they might be crouched and hunched quite close to the keys. And as they get louder, they'll sort of pull back and go and sit up straight again. Which I don't think I remembered to say when I was talking about where to put your feet, that your back needs to be straight. Yes. Like that. And you should easily be able to reach everything. You would normally be sat in the middle at middle C, but of course we're sharing the stool at the moment. If you had sheet music, you would put it up here. How was all of that for a first basic lesson? Do you think you can keep practicing it, remembering each note for me? Good. I can't really stay much longer. Duties to attend to and all of that, but you can keep practicing up here if you'd like. And try not to bang the keys out of frustration. Right. I'll leave you to it then. Good luck. Thank you all so much for watching, my lovelies. A reminder that audio commissions are currently open, and I also have a Ko-fi and a Patreon. If everyone who followed me donated just £1 per month, that would help me out a lot. There are numerous different rewards on my Patreon, including access to my Discord, your name read aloud in the credits, and exclusive Not Safe for Work audios that you get to request. And a reminder that I do stream on Twitch about 3 times every week. I try and make all of my socials a safe space for everyone. A thank you to my fledglings, Cryek, Phoenix JN, Ginger Artist, Andy Christ, Little Lady, Victor's Divorce Lawyer, Enter, Whipson, Kim, Leviathan, Thorn, Zephyr Blurg, Tori Yuki, Colleen Dawn, Angelica Dolinsky, Harmony Phillips, Risley D, Tech Sexual, Leo Nightmare, Liam, and Mike Yavorski. And a thank you to my familiars, TRO Voodoo Doll, Neuron Name, Julia, Abby Clayton, Maximum, Isabel, Your Friend Blue, Sleepy, Cello Moon, Derice, Dandelion, Solidaria, Lauren Lovett, April, Cynical Alterer, Aranza, Abby, Starry Cloud, Squeaks, and Tamika Galloway.